Welcome back to The Source. We continue our look at last week's throne speech from the Liberal government with items that appealed to the unemployed, also to business owners, to youth, and to women. It seemed like Trudeau's throne speech was geared towards appealing to as many different people in the economy as he could. Joining us now, an associate professor from Brock University, Livianna Tossutti. Would you agree that that is the case, that the throne speech was designed to appeal to so many different sectors of the economy?
I think it's very much positioned as a speech to reach out to Liberals' core constituency. It has very much a center-left vision and tone. And there's something in there for everybody. There's something for business in terms of the extension of the wage subsidy. There's something for marginalized groups. There's something for people who are concerned about, of course, the job situation and being able to sustain themselves. So I very much see it positioned along that spectrum, yes.
So in your mind, was it almost like a populist kind of throne speech?
I think it's very much tailored to an unofficial campaign speech. I don't know if populist would be the right word, but I would imagine that it would find enough favor within most sectors of the Canadian population that everybody could find something they like about it. And you see that in the responses of various groups, some business groups, the Canadian Federation of Municipalities. And even early polling results suggest that not too many Canadians are very keen for an election. So it seems that whatever has been offered thus far sits well with most Canadians, but of course not all. And there were some things missing from that speech, which certain sectors of the Canadian population would be disappointed with.
Was there a lot more pressure on him to come up with something that was going to appeal to as many people as possible to avoid the call for an election?
Well, I think, of course, the government has been weighed down by the We Charity affair, and certainly the committee investigation into Mr. Trudeau's role in that and Mr. Morneau's role in that has taken a toll on the government's popularity. You see that reflected in declining polling results from the very high levels that the government received in the early days of its response to the pandemic to the types of ratings it was getting in August. So certainly that would play a role in, I think, the decision to prorogue the Parliament, as well as to produce a throne speech that has a lot of things in it that would appeal to Canadians and would make it very difficult for the opposition to defeat without being blamed for triggering an election, which by all accounts, again, looking at polling results, not many Canadians are looking for. That said, Trudeau has said he is ready to go to an election if necessary, and I think they mean it.
Two of the big promises in the throne speech, childcare across the country, a childcare system, and also pharmacare. We've heard these things before. So is this idle talk in your eyes, or will we see some actual movement on this following this throne speech?
I think there's reason to be optimistic. We have heard this before. The Martin government tried to introduce a child care program. And of course, that was defeated when the Martin government was defeated in 2005. And no national child care program movement was seen between 2006 and the election of the Trudeau government during the Harper era. But I see more reason for optimism on that front because the NDP would be favorable towards the institution of a national child care program of the sort that's been adopted in Quebec, or at least modeled on that. So I see optimism there. And the same with pharmacare, of course. The NDP has been long supportive of national pharmacare. The issue, I think, though, is with intergovernmental relations. Instituting those types of programs does involve some intrusion on provincial responsibilities. So the government is likely to get a lot of pushback from the provinces about federal governments intruding onto areas that are technically under provincial responsibility. Nevertheless, I think the pandemic has, oddly enough, provided a better argument for the federal government that action is necessary because, of course, the pandemic affected women particularly,
Yes.
and the need to establish childcare will facilitate women's return to the workforce. So I'm going to see that it's going to be hard for a lot of premiers to make an argument against some sort of movement on childcare without angering the women in their province, although some premiers might do that. I'm cautiously optimistic.